Working on a modern car can be very difficult, especially if you have large hands like mine. But there's an answer. It's called a serpentine belt tool. It's not just for changing serpentine belts, but it's also a very handy tool for those hard to reach areas. So let's get the testing underway and see which brand is the best. And the first test, we'll test the quality of the crowfoot wrenches. Then we'll test the failure load of the wrenches. Most of the wrenches will not survive the final test. A serpentine belt, also known as a drive belt, accessory belt, or fan belt, is typically held tight by an automatic tensioner. In order to remove the belt, it usually takes a decent amount of torque. Trying to double up a set of wrenches has been my go-to for years, but it's pretty easy to injure hands or fingers when the wrench slides out of position. Fortunately, there's a tool designed for this job that should also perform well at removing fasteners in hard-to-reach areas. At a price of only $20 is this Pittsburgh brand, which is sold at Harbor Freight. They claim this tool pays for itself 10 times over the first time you use it to replace your serpentine belt. It's supposed to fit idler pulleys requiring 15mm or 18mm hex or 3/8 or half-inch square drives. Includes 13, 14, and 15mm crowfoot wrench. And the Pittsburgh is made in China. Most of the crowfeet wrenches look identical, so let's weigh them to see if there's any difference in weight. And a 13mm Pittsburgh weighs 31.28 grams. I measured the inner diameter of 3 crowfoot wrenches, the thickness or width, and the outer diameter. Let's use this torque wrench calibration tool to measure the maximum torque before the crowfoot rounds the soft coupling nut. And the Pittsburgh wrench rounded the nut at 28.74 foot-pounds. The wrench started off at 13.17mm, and the very soft coupling nut did stretch the jaw and cause some damage at 13.24mm. That's 0.07mm of stretch. At a price of $28 is this AllTooetools brand. Let's just call it the AllTools brand. It's an 8-piece universal 3/8" and half-inch drive set. Provides the required leverage and clearance to release the spring pressure and move the tensioner pulley. Includes 15, 16, 18mm hex or 3/8 or half-inch square drive. The AllTools is on the left and the Pittsburgh is on the right, and the AllTools has a much lower profile for working in those tight spaces. And the AllTools is made in China. The Pittsburgh is on the left and the AllTools is on the right, and they definitely look a little bit different. And the AllTools weighs a little bit more than the Pittsburgh at 32.42 grams. And the AllTools jaw opening is a little bit larger at 13.19mm, but the wrench is a little bit thicker and has a smaller outer diameter. And the AllTools rounded the nut at 25.63 foot-pounds or 2 foot-pounds less than the Pittsburgh. And the AllTools experienced even more jaw stretch than the Pittsburgh at 0.09mm. At a price of $40 is this Bilitools set. Combines the advantages of a ratcheting wrench with the requirements of a serpentine belt removal tool. 8 low-profile sockets and extension to help fit into tight spots. Includes 14-inch extension arm, ratcheting wrench with 19mm, 22mm female ratchet drive, 3/8, half-inch, and 3/4 square adapters. Sockets include 13 through 19mm. Crowfeet wrenches, 13, 14, and 15mm. And the Bilitools is made in China. And it's 31.5 grams for the Bilitools. And the Bilitools is at 13.1mm for the tightest fit yet. The width is 6.6mm, and the outer diameter is the smallest yet at 25.15. And the Bilitools just moved into third place at 26.04 foot-pounds. And the Bilitools experienced by far the most jaw stretch, going from 13.1 to 13.24mm. At a price of $42 is this Powerbuilt brand. It's a 13-piece set. It's supposed to include everything that's needed for GM, Ford, Chrysler, Saab, VW, and Volvo. It even includes a pretty nice-looking blow-molded case. Includes 7 low-profile sockets. And the Powerbuilt is made in Taiwan. And the Powerbuilt's by far the heaviest yet at 53.78 grams. And the name Powerbuilt seems to fit as this crowfoot is very large and thick. It also has a huge advantage of having more points of contact like a flare nut wrench. It might not be good for tight spaces, but it's by far the best at very close to 73 foot-pounds. Very impressive. And the Powerbuilt is still at 13.3mm, so no damage. At a price of $44 is this Performance Tool brand. And this is the most comprehensive set yet with 16 pieces. It even includes a kit designed to remove fan clutches. Has 2 different extensions for hard-to-reach areas. And the Performance Tool is made in China. And it's 33.28 grams for the Performance Tools. And the Performance Tool is at 12.98mm, but it is a pretty narrow wrench with an average outer diameter. And the Performance Tool moves into second place behind the Powerbuilt at 35.49 foot-pounds. And 0.05mm of jaw stretch is also second place. At a price of $46 is this ABN brand. The ABN is made in Taiwan. It's a 15-piece kit. Includes socket sizes 13 to 19mm. It also includes 3 crowfoot wrenches. It comes with a pretty nice looking blow molded case. And the ABN is pretty heavy at 37.51 grams. And the ABN is starting off at 13.25mm. The wrench is a little wider than average and has a little larger outer diameter than average as well. And the ABN barely edges out the Performance Tool at 35.56 foot-pounds to move into second place behind the Powerbuilt. And at 0.04mm, the ABN did second best yet for avoiding jaw stretch. At a price of $55 is this Ayers brand. It's a 15-piece set. The socket size coverage is from 13 to 19mm. Crowfoot wrenches from 13 to 15 millimeters. It also includes 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch socket adapters. It even comes with a reversible ratcheting wrench. And the Ayers brand is made in Taiwan. And the Ayers is pretty light at 30.44 grams. And the Ayers is at 13.12 millimeters, but it's a pretty narrow wrench at only 5.9 millimeters. 26.84 millimeters of outer diameter. And the Ayers rounded the nut at 29.68 foot-pounds. The jaw also experienced quite a bit of stretch. Also the price of $55 is this DNA brand. The tools come in a pretty nice looking blow molded case. It's a 16-piece set. The kit comes with 5 sockets, 3 crow's feet, 3 bars, 2 square drives, 1 GM fan clutch kit, and 2 fixed screws. And the DNA motoring set is made in China. And it's 42.83 grams for the DNA motoring. And the DNA motoring is at 12.92 millimeters and is pretty wide at 8.18 millimeters. With an outer diameter of 27.82 millimeters, this Crowfoot wrench should perform very well. And the DNA motoring moves into second place at 50.3 foot-pounds. The jaw did experience quite a bit of damage at 0.08 millimeters of jaw stretch. If you buy this GearWrench set from Snap-on, it'll cost you $200, or you can buy it elsewhere for a lot less. It's a 15-piece ratcheting set, and the long bar can hold sockets directly or attach the ratcheting wrench for maximum access. Includes 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch adapters. Socket sizes include 13 to 19 millimeters. Crow's feet, 13 to 15 millimeters. And the GearWrench set is made in Taiwan. The GearWrench weighs 33.11 grams. And the GearWrench is at 13.15 millimeters, 6.08 millimeters of width, and 27.03 millimeters of outer diameter. And the GearWrench moves into 5th place at 31.79 foot-pounds. However, the GearWrench experienced minimal damage at 0.04 millimeters of jaw stretch. At a price of $70 is this ICON set, which is sold at Harbor Freight. It has a 21-tooth reversible ratchet, includes 6 sockets and 3 Crowfoot wrenches. It also includes 3/8 and 1/2 inch adapters. And the ICON definitely seems to have the best quality blow molded case. And the 13-piece ICON set is made in Taiwan. And it's right at 32 grams for the ICON. And the Harbor Freight ICON is at 13.13 millimeters, but it's pretty narrow at only 5.93 millimeters. The outer diameter is pretty narrow at only 26.95. And the Harbor Freight ICON just moved into 8th place behind the Pittsburgh at 27.95 foot-pounds. The jaw only stretched by 0.04 millimeters. Also the price is $70, the same price as the ICON, is this OTC brand. Includes 13, 14, and 15 millimeter Crowfoot wrenches. It also has a 13 and 15 millimeter 12-point wrench built into the handle. It also comes with 3/8 and 1/2 inch square drives. And the OTC is made in Taiwan. And the OTC weighs 31.8 grams. And the OTC is at 13.16 millimeters, and it's even more narrow than the ICON at 5.79. The outer diameter is at 26.99 millimeters. And the OTC also struggled in this test at 27.16 foot-pounds. The OTC only experienced 0.04 millimeters of jaw stretch. I've had several requests to test the Matco Tools brand, and I did place an order. There was no indication that the tool set was not in supply when I made the order, but when I placed the order, it was immediately placed on back order. Unfortunately, this has happened to me more than once, so I canceled the order after several weeks of waiting. So the Powerbuilt came out on top at 73.01 foot-pounds. DNA motoring finished in 2nd place at 50.3, and ABN 3rd at 35.56 foot-pounds. The coupling nut is very soft and should not cause significant jaw stretch. Fortunately, the Powerbuilt did not experience any jaw stretch. ABN, GearWrench, ICON, and OTC finished in 2nd place at 0.04 millimeters of jaw stretch. If you're working within a tight space, you'll want a ratchet that makes a lot of progress with each back and forth swing. I'll be using a tester that has a 50-degree space, and we'll see how many right to left swings it takes for one complete rotation. Let's skip the Pittsburgh and the AllTools since they don't include a ratcheting wrench. And the tooth count on the Bilitools ratchet is 72. And the Bilitools is off to a pretty good start at 11.7 right to left passes. And the ABN has around 128 tooth count ratcheting mechanism. And the ABN performed even better than the Bilitools at 11.2 right to left swings for one complete rotation. And the gear set on the 72 tooth Ayers ratchet is definitely not as efficient as the ABN at 14.5 back and forth passes. And the GearWrench ratcheting wrench also has 72 teeth. And the GearWrench performed the same as the Ayers at 14.5 back and forth passes. And the Harbor Freight ICON only has 21 teeth. And the low tooth count is really hurting the ICON with just one click during the backswing. And with only one gear tooth advancing per swing, the ICON is finally finished in 21.5. So the ABN came out on top at 11.2 right to left passes. Bilitools finished in 2nd at 11.7, and Ayers and GearWrench tied for 3rd at 14.5. Using a ratchet with a lot of backdrag and tight spaces can really make it challenging at times. If there's enough space, adding resistance to the socket using finger pressure allows the socket to advance, but sometimes that's not an option. I've got a fishing string attached to this 1-inch socket that's attached to a scale. I'll lift the ratcheting wrench until the gear set advances. And the Bilitools has quite a bit of backdrag at 616 grams. And the ABN came out on top for working arc swing, and it's going to be very difficult to beat at only 204 grams of back drag. Just like the Bilitools, the Airs has 72 teeth, and it also has quite a bit of back drag at 534 grams to move into third place. And the GearWrench just moved into second place behind the ABN at 396 grams of back drag. And the 21 tooth ICON seems pretty stiff. And 1,552 grams of back drag is more than twice as much as any of the other brands. So the ABN finished in first place at 204 grams of back drag. GearWrench finished in second place at 396 grams and Airs 534 grams of back drag. If you're trying to access the tensioner pulley on a modern front-wheel drive import, wrench or socket clearance might be a challenge. And the Pittsburgh does not come with low-profile sockets, and the wrench plus socket measure right at 34.43 millimeters. And the AllTools offers a much lower profile at 27.48 millimeters, or about 7 millimeters difference. And the Bilitools with the ratcheting wrench move into the lead at just under 26 millimeters. And the Powerbuilt moves into second place behind the Bilitools at 26.9 millimeters. And the Performance tool is going to be very difficult to beat at only 21.03 millimeters. And it's 30.28 millimeters for ABN's ratchet and socket. And the Airs requires quite a bit of space at 32.28 millimeters. And DNA Motoring moves into second place behind the Performance tool at 22.05. The ratchet and socket for the GearWrench are at 26.09 millimeters. And the ICON ratchet and socket have an even better profile at 25.36. At 20.42 millimeters, the OTC Tools moves into the lead. Let's see which brand offers the tightest engagement with minimal slop using this 15 millimeter Allen socket. In tight spaces, minimal slop ensures the wrench has enough swing to release the tension from the belt tensioner. At 1 foot from the fulcrum, the Pittsburgh performed well at 1 7/8 inches of slop. I repeated this test for each of the wrenches, and the ABN ratcheting wrench did the best at 1 5/8. DNA Motoring non-ratcheting finished in second at 1 3/4. I tested out all the tools at a couple of Chevrolets and a Buick, and they all worked very well. On the other hand, this is a fairly new Toyota 4Runner, and accessing the belt tensioner is a bit of a challenge. I rotated the socket several times to align it with the bolt. Even with the engine cover out of the way, the Pittsburgh just isn't going to have enough range of motion to release the belt. And the AllTools perform the same as the Pittsburgh. Insufficient swing space prevents the wrench from releasing the pulley tension. And the Bilitools ratcheting wrench has a 2-piece handle that adjusts to provide plenty of access swing to release the belt tension. Just like with the Pittsburgh and AllTools, there's not enough swing space for the Powerbuilt. And the Performance Tools adjustable 2-piece handle can be adjusted to offer ample of access and swing to release the belt tension. Just like the Bilitools, the ABN ratcheting wrench has a 2-piece handle that adjusts to provide plenty of access swing to release the belt tension. And the Airs also has a ratcheting wrench, but is not as efficient as the ABN for maximizing wrench positioning and swing. And the 2-piece DNA Motoring isn't as efficient as a ratcheting wrench, but it will get the job done if you can get it to hold on to the socket. And the GearWrench's 2-piece ratchet isn't quite as precise as the ABN, but it'll definitely release the belt tension. Without the second handle piece, the ICON doesn't have enough swing space. And the ICON will work with the extra handle attachment, but the 21 gear ratcheting mechanism is making this more of a challenge than the Bilitools, ABN, Airs, and GearWrench. And the OTC's 2-piece handle can be adjusted to provide plenty of swing space to release the belt tension. Rating performance is highly subjective. ABN achieved the best possible rating of 1 since its efficient ratchet allows a wrench to achieve maximum swing. Bilitools, Airs, and GearWrench all tied for second place with a rating of 2. Let's compare the strength and durability of the 14mm Crowfoot next. We'll use this 14mm Allen socket, which measures right at 13.98 millimeters. And the 14mm Pittsburgh just isn't a very strong wrench, letting go at only 90.48 foot-pounds. And the Pittsburgh is a pretty soft wrench and experienced quite a bit of damage. And the 14mm wrench has expanded to almost 15 millimeters. And things were going great for the AllTools until things suddenly went from happy to snappy at 105.1 foot-pounds. Thank goodness I was wearing eye protection. The Bilitools performed 10 foot-pounds better than the Pittsburgh at just over 100. There's a lot of damage to the wrench, and it grew by almost a full millimeter. And the name seems to fit as the Powerbuilt once again refused to give up. And 162.4 foot-pounds moves the Powerbuilt into the lead. Unfortunately, the wrench handle did not survive the test. The wrench did experience some damage and about 0.22 millimeters of jaw stretch. And the Performance tool made it to just over 104 foot-pounds when the lower jaw finally broke. I never found the lower jaw, but the upper jaw did experience quite a bit of damage. And the ABN once again performed very well at 123.4 foot-pounds to move into second place behind the Powerbuilt. As you might expect, the Crowfoot wrench did experience a lot of damage and grew by 0.63 millimeters. And the Airs has trailed the ABN throughout the showdown and is trailing it once again at 98.34 foot-pounds. And the Airs is made of a much softer metal than the ABN, and it also experienced quite a bit of jaw stretch at 0.86 millimeters. And the DNA Motoring was too small to fit onto the Allen socket without using quite a bit of force. The super tight fit really helped the DNA motoring finally let it go at 148.1 foot-pounds. The wrench is chewed up pretty badly and the 3/8" drive is twisted. The jaws grew by 0.85 millimeters. The GearWrench really failed to impress, letting go at only 94.93 foot-pounds, barely beating the Harbor Freight Warrior. The GearWrench did experience a lot of damage and it did grow by 0.71 millimeters. And the Harbor Freight ICON also failed to impress, letting go at only 97.29 foot-pounds. There's a lot of damage to the wrench and it grew by 0.8 millimeters. And the OTC experienced an early TKO at only 87.99 foot-pounds to end up in last place. Lots of damage to the wrench and the jaw grew by 0.7 millimeters. So the Powerbuilt finished in first at 162.4 foot-pounds. I should have disqualified the DNA motoring wrench since it was too small and had to be pounded onto the Allen socket with a hammer. And the ABN finished in third place at 123.4 foot-pounds. Let's test the failure load of the 3/8" drive next. I'll use a 15mm socket with the Pittsburgh. And the Pittsburgh seems to be a very light-duty tool. And the 3/8" drive broke free from the wrench at 186.8 foot-pounds. Testing the AllTools. Just like the Pittsburgh, the AllTools seems to be a really light-duty tool. And the AllTools failed in the same way as the Pittsburgh, but only at 156.4 foot-pounds. And the Bilitools definitely seems to be more durable than the Pittsburgh and the AllTools. And the Bilitools 3/8" drive broke at 201 foot-pounds, which is not too bad for a budget tool set. We already broke the Powerbuilt wrench earlier in the showdown at 162.4 foot-pounds. I just haven't had much success with the Performance Tool brand in past reviews. However, the Performance Tool outperformed a few brands in this showdown at 209.1 foot-pounds on this test. And the ABN definitely seems to be the best tool set in the review so far. And the 3/8" drive broke at 206.9 foot-pounds, but the ratchet is still working properly. And the Ayers 3/8" drive survived the test, but the ratchet broke at 240.3 foot-pounds. That's actually a pretty good performance for a budget ratcheting wrench and very good performance for a 3/8" drive. And the DNA motoring could use a little DNA upgrade as the tool failed at only 141.8 foot-pounds to move into last place. Definitely a light-duty tool. And the GearWrench ratcheting wrench might be a little clunky and unrefined, but the 3/8" drive and ratchet survived the 280 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty impressive. And the ICON ratchet appears to have jumped off the 3/8" drive and nearly took out the torque wrench tester display. I'll try this again. And the second attempt is even worse at 128.9 foot-pounds. And the OTC is just as expensive as the ICON and it just finished behind the $20 Pittsburgh at only 174.9 foot-pounds. Another light-duty tool. And the only survivor in this test is the GearWrench at over 280 foot-pounds. A couple of the other brands have 3/8" drives that survive, but the wrenches failed. Let's remove the 3/8" drives and install the 15mm sockets to see if we can break the sockets or wrenches. And the Bilitools ratchet and socket survived the torture test at over 280 foot-pounds. And a Performance Tool wrench ran out of performance at 219.7 foot-pounds. And this wrench is definitely ruined. And the ABN wrench and 15mm socket survived the test at 276.4 foot-pounds. Skipping the error since I already broke the ratchet at 240.3 foot-pounds. And the DNA motoring definitely needs better DNA at only 165.7 foot-pounds. The super soft socket and wrench destroyed each other. And the GearWrench ratcheting wrench and socket once again survived the test at over 277 foot-pounds. And the ICON is bygone at 55.89 foot-pounds. The ratchet must have experienced catastrophic damage in the previous test. There's definitely some visible damage to the gear set. And the OTC broke in the previous test at 174.9 foot-pounds. If you're looking for a highly durable wrench, the Bilitools, ABN, and GearWrench survived the torture test at well over 250 foot-pounds. So which tool set is the best? The tool sets are organized based upon the average finish or rating. And the ABN ran circles around the competition in most categories with the best average finish at 1.9. Considering the price of under $50, that would definitely be my choice. GearWrench finished in second place with an average finish at 4.1. The ratcheting wrench really holds back the tool set compared to the ABN. However, I would buy either of those tool sets if the price was right. I've talked to other YouTube creators and they make a fortune off of accepting sponsorships and free products, but I say no to all those things. Simply because I really want to provide unbiased reviews and I want no outside pressure. It gives me the best possible chance to provide a fair, unbiased review. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care and I look forward to next time.